Yesterday, I made a video talking about Stick Spree, the most unhappy rage baiter on all of Twitch. I was reading a lot of the comments that you guys were posting on my last video, and all I want to say first is thank you so much for the support. A lot of you had to have similar experiences as I did, where he's going in games, no comment, and throwing. A lot of you even went to a stream and see for yourself. I was right. There was a clip from today's stream where he called me under 10K follower nobody, which is kind of crazy to me considering the fact that he has almost 7,000 more followers than me with 50 current viewers on his page, which is very good. Now, I'm not one to beg for followers like he does. What I will ask you guys is let's see if we can get more followers than him. The amount of support I seen on last video makes me believe it is totally possible to surpass them. Let's go.
So DJ Academics had a problem. This one's pretty bad, so let's just jump straight to it. But first of all, for those of you that don't know, DJ Academics is probably the #1 source for hip-hop news and all the internet, but we're gonna get right into DJ Academics as the story unfolds. Anyway, he's in a Discord call. DJ Academics is playing a game with some folks in Discord call. Now, one of these folks in the Discord call is a young man. We're gonna call Billy. Now, I'm not gonna tell you Billy's age, but did you know that James Buchanan was the 15th president of the United States? Here's a second. Okay, now Billy tells DJ Academics and the rest of the guys, hey, by the way, people are watching this. They say, okay, that's cool, no problem, right? One of the people in the Discord call takes it upon himself to ask Billy, hey, have you ever watched Netflix with a girl? You don't know what that means. Look at the call. Billy says, nah, I'm not that age. I can't be doing that type of stuff. Dude in the Discord call says, so? Now the same DJ Academics saying this is just one of the other old men in the call. Billy says, so? I'm not that age. Dude says, hey, Billy, I'm finna send some people over to your crib so you can, watch some Netflix. Billy says, don't do that. The people you send over are finna catch a case. I'm not that age. DJ Academics says, so. Now this next part's important. DJ Academics starts asking Billy, the young man, questions involving a streamer named Black Max. Why? Because listen closely. Billy, the young man, has a very close relationship with the streamer Black Boy Max. Billy is Black Boy Max's Discord moderator. Now, people view Discord moderators as super fans of a particular streamer. They oftentimes have close relationships with said streamer. So DJ Academics understands this, so he asks Billy, hey, Billy, actually, now, for this one, so Academics says, so Billy, if Black Boy Max were to ask you to watch Netflix with him, would you do it? Billy says, what? Academics says, if Black Boy Max were to come over to your house right now.
Cops say I can smell them. If your car is clean, do this immediately. Police claim they smell something like alcohol or any other suspicious odor. They're often using it as a way to establish probable cause and search your car. Arguing or trying to explain, such as saying, I haven't smoked, or there's nothing.
This week, only on Uber.
Hey, we got some cars back from grading, and not just 1 or 2, but 3.
Now taxes?
Here's a flashback to when I broke up on screen.
Hey, Mona Lisa, come home. You know you can't roll without Caesar.
Excuse me, why didn't you take out that trash I told you to take out? I took out the trash an hour ago. I got home from school. Well, I didn't see you take it out. Then I never seen a giraffe taking shit. No. Why is the trash still in the fucking can? No, I ain't look. No, I didn't look to see if the trash was in there. I gotta look. I gotta look for shit. I know you didn't fucking take it out. I didn't look. I ain't gotta look. So you didn't look. I ain't gotta look. I gotta look. This is my house. You didn't look. I ain't gotta look for shit now. So you didn't look. I gotta look for trash. You don't know. Look for shit. Motherfucker, you look for shit. Tell him. You the fuck, I'm cursing. I'm cursing tired of you. I'm fucking tired of you. That's your mind telling me. Goddamn. Look, your mama don't let fucking bitch. Every time my mom is a bitch for stupid niggas, I end up having to deal with taking out trash. She has a job. I'm stuck in on with you. Take out the trash. Take out the trash. Take out the trash.
Hi, welcome to Bob's Burgers. Come see, I'll get you some menus.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Here's Clown.
Walks like he's got a rod up his ass.
Nice haircut, guy.
Man, if I ever look like that, shoot me.
Rick Sorkin. Spectre, nice to meet you. Yes. Oh, what's this? Fortunately, we only hired one. You got law school. Not any law school. You give me this. I don't work as hard as it takes to screw those work. She's the best lawyer I've ever seen. I'm Clint, sure, I might say. I'd say that's fair. Sometimes I'm thinking of me, that right, and just to see how the other half.
Here's Clown.
Walks like he's got a rod up his ass.
Nice haircut, guy.
Man, if I ever look like that, shoot me.
Rick Sorkin. Spectre, nice to meet you. Yes. Oh, what's this? Fortunately, we only hired one. And you got law school. Not any law school. You give me this. I don't work as hard as it takes to screw those work. She's the best lawyer I've ever seen. I'm Clank, shut up, I might say. I'd say that's fair. I guess it's time to tell the truth. How do you get $300? Ready to take the next step in your career?
Good day for Rain. Another funeral service as we say goodbye to another game that will join X-Defiant, Concord, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and the great beyond of games that shut down within a handful of months. Multiverses. It was announced that Season 5 will be the last update to the game. You'll still be able to play the new characters that are earnable through Battle Pass, which is Old Bunny and Aquaman, but the game will be going offline, though you will still be able to play it offline, which is more than you can say for things like Concord. I hate how everything gets compared to that game now, but it really is the gold standard for flop, failure, and fuck up. And it's a damn shame Multiversus walks this same path. Multiversus actually pulls a pseudo Morbius here, where it happened twice. So I really liked this game in beta. I streamed it a lot, and I had a great time. I was one of the top ranked Shaggies in the world, not to toot my own horn here, but I just had so much fun with it during the beta, and then they took the beta down, saying that, you know, it was only a limited time access to it. That was when people stopped playing it as much, so it really felt more like they didn't maintain the numbers they were hoping for, so they decided to take it off and then bring it back later, hoping that more people would be really hyped for the second go-around. Unfortunately, the second go-around was much worse, with people not flocking to it like they did initially, and the complete product was missing features the beta had. The biggest and, in my opinion, most unforgivable sin was they slowed the pacing of the game down to a glacial crawl. The beta had a great speed. It was nice, it was fast, nuts to butts action, it felt good, and then they brought it back in the full release. They turned it down to like 0.5 Mini HUD Junior mode, and it was much less enjoyable. It was so much slower, and most people, myself included, hated that change. It felt much worse than it did when it was a beta. So, even though a lot of people didn't come back to the game, those that did from the beta didn't stick around with it. stopped playing after like a week and a half, whereas I played the beta for like 2 months. Pretty strong. It was just genuinely a good time. Platform fighter that felt pretty fresh. You get to play as LeBron James dunking on bitches. You get to play as Shaggy going Super Saiyan and doing some really fun shenanigans. It was great. And then when they took it offline and brought it back, it was a shell of its former self. It's like they sent it to fucking shock therapy or it got lobotomized or something. It just wasn't the same game. And a lot of people felt that. So it didn't have strong player numbers. So this isn't the most surprising news that they're shutting it down. It's just disappointing. It really is just a shame. Because I feel like if they never took the beta down and instead they just added things people were really wanting, like bringing ranked, like competitive matches to the game in a timely fashion, that was a can they kept perpetually kicking down the road, it felt like. But instead they just took the game down and made people that liked it wait even longer for it to come back, and then what they got was a fucking zombie of the game that they used to like. To me, it just boils down to delusion, thinking that somehow taking the game down would create some kind of like feverish hype around it with people scratching their neck waiting for it to come back, so they'd start spreading the word, telling their friends, and they'd drop it again. It'd be like fucking Half-Life 3 releasing. Everyone would flood to the game this time around. That was never going to happen. All this did was confuse everybody. It was just a baffling choice, and I think it killed the game's momentum. Even though, like, even during its beta, it was starting to lose some momentum, it still did have a pretty loyal player base that you could have absolutely built upon and grew into something beautiful. And it's a lesson that the entire gaming community has been learning over the last year, that these games, these multiplayer games that come out, there's a good chance they don't stick around. So a lot of people don't bother buying anything like skins or passes, because why the fuck would you waste money on a game that's not going to be here? There are so many games that shut down so quickly that it feels like a scam if you spend money on it. Multiversus is one of those. They have a $100 Founders Pack that the players are not going to be getting a refund on when this game shuts down. That is, in my eyes, a fucking load of baloney. That is some horseradish for sure. It's such a fascinating cycle of Ouroboros in its own ass here, because the reason games like Multiversus and Xtify and all that are shutting down is because they don't have players that are spending enough money in the game to make it sustainable. Like, it doesn't make financial sense to keep operating Multiverse. I'm actually having a fucking pig moment right now. It doesn't make sense to keep paying the developers for Multiversus and to keep building Multiversus if the players aren't spending enough money in the game. But players aren't spending enough money in these games because the uncertainty of the game's lifespan is always called into question. Why would you start spending money in a game that might not be here in 5 months? That's being generous. A lot of these games don't even make it 5 months anymore, which I think is absolutely absurd. But case in point right here, Multiversus took a year-long hiatus. It went to the hyperbolic time chamber to beef up, get bigger, and then it came back and was much smaller, much weaker, and super wimpy. This game came back and died faster than a fucking butterfly on the interstate crashing into a windshield. It's just so silly to me. But yeah, overall, I'm not surprised that Multiversus is shutting down. I feel like most people probably are stunned by that news. You don't need the Mayan calendar to predict this one. But it still is sad. Like, I enjoyed the game. I thought it was great beta, and then they shut it down, and then brought it back, and then shut it down again. They pulled it twice. Like, come the fuck on. It's just ridiculous at this point. At the very least, though, you will still be able to play this game offline if anyone wants to have LAN parties for Multiversus. That will at least be an option, so that's good. But personally, I really do think there was a chance to turn this into a very niche community. It was never going to reach the heights of like a Super Smash Brothers or something, and it probably wouldn't reach like a Brawlhalla either. But you could have still carved out your own community for Multiversus. It still did have a community. Maybe just tap into that and build there, and maybe don't kill the game's momentum in the first place by taking it offline and putting like a fucking year-long hiatus on the next iteration of it that happens to be a worse iteration of what this was. To me, it just feels like they took too many steps in the wrong direction here, and then there wasn't a whole lot they could do to salvage it. And so they pulled the plug instead of even trying to somehow make something out of it. Which is kind of par for the course for a lot of games these days. So yeah, that's really about it. So.
Led Zeppelin song Stairway to Heaven, a title that invokes the image of a stairway leading up to a land of peace and paradise. But where else could a stairway lead? To a dusty attic full of old photo albums? To the upper level of a mall where the movie theater and frozen yogurt shop are neatly situated? Perhaps it leads to a rooftop with a beautiful view. Or maybe, just maybe, a staircase could lead you to SCP-2427. SCP-2427, appropriately nicknamed A Thing Full of Stuff, is an extra-dimensional area filled with a variety of unusual and anomalous objects. SCP-2427 can be accessed by way of a broken stone staircase located in rural Ohio. According to local legend, carrying a sprig of hemlock up the broken stairs will allow a person to emerge into a mysterious grass clearing that appears to be in a forest somewhere in the United States. No matter what time a person ascends the staircase, the solar time in the clearing will always be 2 p.m. You know how people say it's 5 o'clock somewhere? Well, it's 2 o'clock somewhere too, and that somewhere is here. The pocket dimension that is SCP-2427 is thought to have been a holding area for weapons, prisoners, and artifacts belonging to an ancient cult known as the Brazen Heart. Little is known about this relatively obscure cult, other than the fact that they worship the demonic entity Moloch, a known enthusiast of violent human sacrifice, and were previously thought to have been eradicated during the Spanish Inquisition. The existence of SCP-2427 suggests that they are very much not eradicated, and are still active. They refer to these holding areas as attics, and though no confirmed members of the Brazen Heart have been contacted, it is considered possible that there are at least a handful of other attics hidden around the world. The Foundation has identified 7 anomalous objects inside of SCP-2427 so far, each strange in its own beautiful, though often terrible way. Like snowflakes, if they were capable of killing or maiming you. The first object in SCP-2427, aka SCP-2427-1, is a seemingly normal fire hydrant. However, if you think there's anything normal about the items found here, then you haven't been paying attention. The hydrant is made out of lead, and when opened, it expels high levels of ionized radiation. No specific measurements of the radiation have been taken yet, but it is definitely hazardous to human health. One unfortunate member of D-Class personnel has proven that it is a high enough level to melt human flesh. Sorry about your face, Dave. The hydrant is currently contained within an electrified perimeter, and is not to be opened under any circumstances to prevent any further flesh melting. The last thing we need is another Dave incident. The second object contained within SCP-2427 or SCP-2427-2 is not actually an object at all. It's a building. Only on number 2 and we're already throwing curveballs at you. Trust no one. Surprises lurk around every corner. This particular building resembles a large multi-storied sanitarium built in the 1860s. Though it is clear from the outside that the building has or should have multiple stories, the inside is a different matter. Past the building's front doors is a non-Euclidean space consisting of a single floor and 3 sparsely decorated rooms with one central foyer. The first room is the holding place for SCP-2427-3. The second contains SCP-2427-4, and the third room contains nothing except scattered religious documents, bottled water, and a selection of canned food. No unauthorized staff are permitted to enter the building, in order to minimize complications or potential employee casualties. The first 2 anomalies on this list are hardly even strange by SCP Foundation standards. Sure, the hydrant can melt your face, and the building defies the laws of physics and space, but that's just a regular Tuesday around these parts. Been there, seen that. What else you got? Well, SCP-2427-3 is where things really get strange. If you're wandering through the bowels of SCP-2427-2 and you make a wrong turn into the first room, you will find yourself face to face with a startling sight. This entity is a combination of electronic circuitry, a cow's digestive tract, the hairless head of a human man, a hat rack, several lengths of garden hose, and an unidentified crystalline structure. This creature is extraordinarily fast and strong, exhibiting carnivorous tendencies and a very strong point of view on the world around it. Lucky for us, it is capable of speech and is able to tell us just what it thinks. Though this monstrosity doesn't have much of a right to pass judgment on anyone, cow-intestined body and all, it has expressed a violent hatred of all life that it considers impure. Anyone who encounters SCP-2427-3 experiences an overwhelming desire to submit themselves for judgment, allowing the creature to determine their purity. There is a rumor that if one is judged to be pure, they will have a wish granted. If they are deemed impure, however, they will be devoured alive. If you're tempted to introduce yourself to the creature, your odds are not especially great. The creature has not encountered a single pure being yet. In order to protect the Foundation staff working in its vicinity, the entrance to SCP-2427-3's room has been sealed off with a reinforced steel door, and the windows have been paved over with concrete. Armed guards are watching the entrance at all times. The creature must be fed one live goat per day in order to keep its appetite satiated. The Foundation's goat budget is through the roof these days, but it's worth it to keep the thing contained. Better to spend money on goats now and not spend money on cannibalized personnel later. SCP-2427-4 consists not of an object located within a room, but the room itself. The room, which contains no furniture and a linoleum floor, has a peculiar effect on the human psyche. Once a person steps foot into the room, they lose consciousness for 5 minutes. During this time, they will speak freely, listing off a variety of negative qualities about themselves. Once they wake up, they have no memory of entering this state or anything that they said during it. It's cheaper than therapy, right? But it's also much weirder and less effective, so you get what you pay for in the end. A member of D-Class personnel who was observed inside of the room waxed poetic about his personal failings, beginning his monologue with, "My soul is a den of spiders," and ending it with, "O hero, whence I awaken, hesitate not to feed my flesh and my soul to the Judge Beast." Somebody give this guy a hug, because the room seems to have no adverse effects on human test subjects, except for causing everyone who hears their monologue a bit of discomfort. There are no containment procedures in effect for it at this time. We've had rooms, fire hydrants, and horrible meat-robot hybrids, and now you can't even trust the clouds in the sky. SCP-2427-5 is a seemingly innocent cloud, hovering stationary over the building. When looked at by a human for more than 3 seconds, the cloud will eject a ball of solid lead towards the person at a supersonic speed. That's right, folks. This cloud can and will shoot you. It hates being observed, but it also hates when you try to leave the perimeter. It will attack any person attempting to leave by firing the same
Here's my secret to glowy skin. And no, it is not a 10-step care routine. It's actually the Hero Cosmetics Glow Bomb, which instantly gives my skin a glowy finish. Thanks to Glow Bomb, my skin looks less dull and is left looking radiant and dewy. Formula is so nourishing to the skin, and now my dry skin feels so much softer. It's our secret now, so don't tell anyone. Just
lead ball at them. So far, 14 personnel have been killed by this highly aggressive cloud.